unfortunate I can't see.
I know. I'm so sad you can't see me too. But I'm going to flip the people around and they'll at least get to see you. Because you know what? That's amazing. And they can see my reflection. And that's all they need. Okay. So we are officially live on Instagram. And I will save this for my Facebook people. And I would love for you just to start by introducing yourself. Tell us who you are and how you created the Baja Med group.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. First off, an apology. I'm sorry things didn't work out the way we wanted to. The technological mishaps or whatever you want to call it. I was there at 1 p.m. sharp. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly now. So I'm Dr. Serrano. I'm the medical director here at Baja Med Group. I'm one of the surgeons that was actually in surgery. The only reason why I'm mentioning this is because she said it was okay. If not, I would have mentioned these things. We are a medical facility located in Tijuana, Mexico, and we offer medical services in most of the major specialties, including bariatric surgery, plastic surgery, fertility medicine, orthopedic surgery, spine surgery, ophthalmology surgery, alternative medicine, and a few other very interesting fields. Now, we typically see patients from all over the world, although Canada is definitely one of our biggest sites where we get a lot of patients from, and on a daily basis. So we do speak to a lot of people from Canada. So that's a little bit of Baja Med. Like I said, our patient base is mostly from the U.S., Canada, and other parts of the world. So we do have a very specific protocol on how to do video consultations, phone consultations, to make sure that we take all the necessary precautions so that when a patient comes here, that they are prepared for surgery and it's not just an expensive trip to Mexico or to San Diego. Most of our patients arrive at the San Diego airport. They get seen by our chief internal medicine specialist, cardiologist, lab techs, and to make sure that every surgery or procedure we do is done in a safe manner. It's a multidisciplinary effort, and so there are a lot of people behind the curtains. There are 17 specialists that are part of our group, and a whole group of support staff and nurses that are the unsung heroes that make our job a lot easier. So I think I went a little too long, but I apologize. Or I'll take any questions that you guys have.
No, we love it, Dr. Serrano. First, I just want to take a moment to literally shamelessly plug your staff, because I have never seen the level of care that your staff provides. And, you know, nothing against being Canadian. We don't get that level of care here. And I mention it because I know a lot of people don't understand what going to Mexico for surgery is. And I've seen that look on people's face when I say, oh, I went and had my surgery in Tijuana. And they go, oh dear God, do you have all your organs? What? And I want people to know that literally the level of care that you provide it's so amazing. When your cardiologist came to check me out, we joked, we laughed. That man sat at the end of my bed for an hour and became my new best friend. In Canada and in the United States, doctors don't give you that kind of time. They just don't. They don't pay that attention to you. And I never once in your care felt like I was a number. I never felt like it didn't matter. If anything happened, you were there. Your staff was there. Dude, I saw you run. I have never seen a doctor run in my life.
Well, the ones on TV run all the time.
Yeah.
But we do, it's a priority for us to make every patient feel like a patient, not like a number. It may sound cliche, but that's really something we strive for every single day. Now, what you said about the staff is true. They are our eyes and ears. They make our job a lot easier. And everybody's in it for the right reasons, I guess. We just really want to make sure that we succeed and that we offer the highest level of healthcare to every single one of the patients that come to our door. Now, what you were saying about the stigma is true. Unfortunately, it's something that we do have to deal with on a daily think a lot of it is politics. I really don't want to get too much into it.
No.
I mean, what I would tell you is that, I mean, if somebody ever would feel safe while they're in our care, I mean, gosh, I would say we'll give you your treatment for free. There's really not going to be one point in the whole process from when you arrive to the airport to when you go back to the airport with our drivers that you would feel like you're in danger. I mean, we're the most exclusive in the Beverly Hills of the city, if you will. Our hospitals are certified. I sit on the health board, and so we try to crack down on the people that are doing things for the wrong reasons. But it's a huge city. We have over 3 million people here, and so it's difficult to crack down on everybody. But it is important for people that when they're looking for healthcare abroad, they don't focus just on the price. You know, a lot of the consultations I have, the first question I get asked is, how much? You know, and that's really not my area. I don't really deal with numbers. But most patients, I hope that they're asking questions like, so, you know, what kind of precautions do you take to make sure your surgery is safe? What brand of instruments do you use? Those little things, you know, that shows me that you're doing your research and not just choosing for discount medicine.
Yes. Well, and I will say that I think a lot of reason why people focus on price is because where I live, it's ridiculously expensive, Dr. Serrano. Like $28,000 ridiculous for lap band. That's how much it costs in Canada to get the lap band done. $28,000 Canadian. And it's ridiculous. So I do realize that people are shopping around. And I will be honest with you guys. Dr. Serrano's not the cheapest. I did not go to the cheapest. You guys know me. I would not do that. And I would never refer to you guys anywhere where I didn't honestly believe you were going to get the best of care. Like when people say to me, you went to Mexico, I did not go to some Mexican chop shop. I went to the best clinic of its kind worldwide. And I know that. I trust what you built and what you invested in. And I know your vision. When I met you almost 8 years ago now, I have to brag. I was one of 3 first Canadian patients ever. What? Yeah. Yes, I was. So we got to see you right at the very beginning, like when you were just beginning to grow. And I was so amazed and touched by your story that you built this out of your own vision to create something better for people. You know, not just medical, not just tourism, but the opportunity to do it all in one. And it really was. Like, it was a vacation for me, even though I was having surgery. And I love that opportunity for people. So what I'd really like to talk about today is you have an amazing special on liposuction right now. So,
yes, that is correct. And so I had to actually brush up a little on it because that's our marketing department usually, you know, does these like offers every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And so as far as I'm concerned right now, there is an offer to do basic liposuction, which usually involves or what people call lipo 360, which is usually lipo around the abdomen, lipo around the flanks, or what people call the love handles, the lower back, middle back. And so for patients that are good candidates, we include the labs, all the medical fees, the cardiology evaluation, the hospital fees, the surgeon fees, et cetera, et cetera. And that usually has, well, right now, I think it's a cost, if I'm not mistaken, of just under $3,000.
Yes. And that's an amazing deal. When I looked comparably to what's available in Canada, that it's an amazing deal. And that's why I had to get a hold of Michelle and say, my people need to hear about this deal. So here's my question. How do we know if we just need liposuction or if we need a tummy tuck, if we need a full-on lift? How do we know those things? I mean, I already know. And I've talked to my people about this. I'm coming to get my tummy tuck and my boob lift one of these days soon. So I know I do. But for other people, where's the line? When will liposuction do it, and when do you have to go full procedure?
Okay, good question. So, Let me just give you a little bit of background on why the perfect candidate for a lipo versus the one that's not. So lipo was actually created for patients that have small areas that they want to work on. The love handles, the lower back, the little pouch under your belly button, and so on. Now, a lot of people have been taking advantage of doing lipo just for the heck of it and just overdoing it, targeting multiple areas at once, and that's really not safe, okay? So I've heard of stories where people remove 12, 15 liters, of fat in one session, and that's just not safe at all.
Okay.
So we usually get a calculation by our cardiologist and our chief internal medicine specialist where it says our permissible blood loss or how much we can remove. And so we plug that into a formula with your height, your weight, and any other conditions that you have as a patient so that we can determine how much fat we can remove. So, I mean, typically with patients that require a little bit of lipo, we can be doing anywhere from 3 to 4 liters of lipo, which is usually a pretty decent amount of lipo. We have all the techniques available, the lasers, the vasers, and all that good stuff. So all the toys are available to us. Now, in regards to saying, okay, well, when am I a candidate for lipo? When am I a candidate for tummy tuck? So there are two very different surgeries, and most patients always assume that one is a part of the other. So that whenever you do a tummy tuck, you automatically are going to get lipo, and that's not the case. Okay, that I think forums and people, non-experts talking about this, have led people to believe that, and so that's why we usually get those misconceptions when patients come to see us. So the short answer is that what's the goal of a tummy tuck? The goal of a tummy tuck is to tuck the tummy, to basically remove as much excessive skin as you have, and not worry too much about the excessive fat. Okay, the number one concern is skin in excess, so that we can remove it. And with lipo, we're worrying about fat excess. So lipo, fat excess. Tummy tucks, we're talking about skin excess. And so, yes, we can, whenever we do a tummy tuck, we can couple both surgeries. But for the most part, our number one priority with tummy tucks is to remove as much of that skin that has already been too stretched out so that we can leave you with your healthy looking skin. Okay.
So the next question we have, Dr. Serrano, is about scarring. Now, I know a lot of people, they look into tummy tucks, breast lifts, augmentation, and they're worried about scarring. So how do we go about minimalizing the look of our scars? Is that in how we take care of them? Is that in how the stitching is done? I've heard some people, I mean, Crystal had her surgery and they gave her the pig ears because they didn't do it right. So what can we do to ensure that our scarring is going to be minimal?
Okay, great question. So with scarring, there are certain things to take into consideration. And yes, one is surgical technique, but I think most of my colleagues will agree with me on saying that it's not the biggest factor in surgery. The biggest factor is actually your genetic makeup, okay? So when you're going into surgery, you may have a few strikes against you or not, okay? So there are some patients that have a higher predisposition to having what are called hypertrophic scars or chelosis as a result of surgery. And so what we do with our surgical technique is try to place as less stress. So if we're putting skin together like this, we try to go in several different layers until we get to the skin so that there is the less amount of stress possible. Okay. That's why good quality sutures do play a factor in this. So if you use the cheap quality sutures that are available in the black market or whatever, those aren't going to provide a lot of tensile strength. So you can have skin that's opening up from the inside, and then it can open up a little from the outside, just a tad, and then so that creates automatically a thicker scar or a hypertrophic scar. So if the surgical technique is proper and but the patient just has a large scar, it does have to do a lot with genetics. Now, there are certain products out in the market that can help you. And now we use specific one. You can Google it. It's called Cellerate RX, CELLERATERX.com. And it's a wonder to use during and after surgery because it's a product that's based out of collagen, and we fell in love when it was introduced to us. So we recommend it to our patients, and you can couple it with certain surgical dressings that when you know you're going to be doing large suture line like a tummy tuck, which is, in this fashion, and it can be several inches in length, or a breast lift that is usually a type of incision that does have a lot of attention in the suture line just naturally, then you want to make sure you take those precautions to make sure that the scar looks as nice as possible and as aesthetic as possible.
Okay. So then my next question, and this is kind of a personal one. You and I have discussed this before when we did my consult, but I want to talk to people about the difference between just getting a breast lift and then getting the augmentation that we had talked about. Because on my channel, we've talked multiple times about the weird shape of our boobs. Like, what is this ski slope thing? Why is it so hollow at the top?
Yeah, great question. So, to give you some peace of mind, and your followers as well, the vast majority of women have abnormal breast shapes. Okay. So the small minority of women are the ones that make it to be bra models or that come out in the movies. And so those people are either have been under the knife or have been blessed by God. And so they that's usually the patient that you're going to see that has the very perky, very nice breasts. Now, a lot of women may have breastfed. A lot of women maybe have gained and lost weight throughout their lives, and that usually has a large effect on the shape of your breasts in the late 30s, early 40s, which is usually when most women are going to be looking to do something to their breasts. Okay, so I won't go into the anatomy of it too much because there are so many different types of breasts out there that no two breasts are created equal. So what we have to do is we have to take the breast that we see and try to restore the anatomy that the patient had prior to breastfeeding, to gaining weight, or to other factors that might have played a role into giving them the shape that they have now. So how do we know that? So why do a lot of women have a very flat chest on top of what we call the upper pole of the breast, and then all the way to the bottom? That means that the gland part of the breast is most likely going to be sitting at the bottom, and the fat as well. So what we have to do is that whenever we do a lift, in those situations, we have to make sure that if we're going to place an implant, okay, it's not going to be to increase the breast in size. It's going to be to give the breast some projection in the upper pole. So what happens is that when we sneak the implant up under the muscle, it gives some projection here. I mean, it's not going to look like your tonsils up here, but it's just going to give some projection to the breast in the upper pole. Yes. So we're going to maintain the gland and the fat that the patient has in order to keep that volume at the bottom as well. So the short answer to just getting breast implants versus getting a lift is, if you feel gravity has had an effect on your breasts, then most likely you need a lift. Okay, whether it's going to be a small lift, medium, or a bigger type of lift. So there are different variants of breast lifts to do.
Excellent. And I wanted to touch on that because when you and I had discussed it, I was like, okay, I'll get the lift, but I don't want any implant. And we talked about the shape, and you literally said to me, Dory, I don't do that for women unless they don't care about their boobs, and that's not you. So I appreciate that you saw that, because I would be like, oh, I just don't want anything fake in there, and then I would end up with weird boobs.
Yeah, and so now the type of implant that we use is what people are calling the Gummy Bear implant, which is the more, let's call it, it's the safest implant in the market. It's the best of the best. Okay? There's nothing better in the market than the Gummy Bear implants. The technical name is the cohesive gel implants. And so one of the first companies that came up with it was a French company, and that's the implant that we use. It's the safest implant in the market. It's the most natural looking and the most natural feeling. So you have the three things that you need, or that you look for in an implant. So it's called a Gummy Bear because, if, God forbid, you're let's say in a car accident, and you're wearing your seatbelt and you have some trauma to your chest, and if the implant ruptures, it's like a gummy bear. So when you take a bite out of a gummy bear, nothing spills. So that's basically the effect that this implant would have.
And they are amazing. A girlfriend of mine did go and see you and get them done. And I won't lie, we worked together at the same place and we played Can You Tell the Difference? And you can... It was a fun game. Only the girls got to play at the office and all the boys circled around going, they're touching each other's boobs.
Some other place.
Right? Go stand in the corner. You don't get to watch this. But I was really impressed because we've all seen bad fake boobs. Like, we have seen them, they're northeast, southwest. They either don't come together or they come together all the way. So I'm going to say, if you guys are looking somewhere, take a look at the pictures, How do you know that? Because, Dr. Serrano, I can look at 50 different pages and I can tell the difference between a good boob and a bad boob because I know what boobs should look like. But how would the average person decide, is this the place for me or not? What should we be looking for specifically?
To be completely honest with you, Dory, it's completely subjective. And because what's beautiful for you is going to be different for viewer number one and different for viewer number two. So it really depends on what you're looking for. And so most plastic surgeons out there are going to be able to say, okay, well, what is it that you want? Okay, and so if you can externalize that in a very simple manner to your doctor, and he or she can reciprocate in saying, okay, I understand what you want, then you found the match. But I mean, if you're talking maybe to a nurse or a physician assistant and you can't get your point across to the physician, then I would say beware, because if you're not getting your point across, you're most likely not going to get the result that you want. Okay. Because, I mean, we do this all the time. I mean, guys from all over the world, but it just depends on what it is the patient likes. And so, I mean, maybe you've seen a patient of Dr. Smith from some part of the world, and he had a patient that had huge breasts and that they looked unnatural. And now that's going to be a little unfortunate for Dr. Smith because maybe that's what the patient wanted, okay? And that's not his signature. Yeah. So it's very subjective. And so I believe that it has to do with you feeling comfortable with the doctor that you're going to see, or with the medical team in general.
Now, here's my question about that. Because other than when I went to your clinic and had surgery there, I've never had that one-on-one contact with my doctor, my surgeon, a cardiologist who was seeing me. So in my own personal experience, I would say that other clinics don't really offer that. So how do you know if you've made a match with a doctor or not? I guess it's a weird question.
Yeah, I think you just know it, in your gut feeling. I mean, I usually, we have those moments when I'm either doing a video consultation with the patient or a phone consultation, where it's that little moment, when you kind of feel that connection with the patient, and the patient reciprocates with you, and they say, okay, yes, this is what I want. I just have to find a way to make it happen, And so usually from then it's going to, a lot of things do play into consideration, like our availability, do the finances agree with each other, and so all those little things, those intricacies that are important. So we want to make sure that, obviously we are within means of a lot of our patients, and which usually we are. And so, I mean, it's just a matter of getting that click when you have that conversation where you feel that comfort level with your doctor that allows you to take the next steps.
Well, and I know for myself personally, and I'm not just saying it because you're on live with me, there isn't anywhere else I would send anyone I love. Like, in the last 8... Yeah, I wouldn't send anyone anywhere else. Like, I wouldn't. You're the only person that I trust. And anyone who's asked me about any kind of surgery over the last 7 years, I have flat out referred them to you, because I literally came down there a stranger. We missed our flight. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
lot, just like today.
Right? And I told them how you literally left message at 5 different hotels hoping we would end up there. And that for me was my first contact with you, and that already blew my mind. Because you know what? You could have said, I'm off shift. It doesn't really matter. You know what? These girls will get here or they won't get here. And you know what? They'll arrive or they won't. But you were on it. Like, you were literally at stupid o'clock at night phoning around looking for us. And that was what sealed the deal for me. Like, you really, really cared about our safety. And then when we did get on the phone, you reminded us of all the things we should have done and made sure we did them. Now, as horrifying as this sounds, I have a lot of people who message me with their bariatric horror story. And I know people whose doctors didn't even make them liquid diet before surgery. They literally went into surgery with a full stomach. So it scares me out there. You know, not everybody is getting the same level of care. So I feel like when you find somewhere that's really providing above and beyond, that's my job to share that with everybody that I can. So I'm really glad we got a time to do that. Now, for our wrapping up thought, what I would really like to talk about is some of the difference in the level of care. And what I mean by that is I had my surgery with you almost 8 years ago. And only now is the gastric sleeve placation available in Canada. 8 years later, they're only just now having their very first doctors who can perform it. And when I had it in your clinic, the surgeon who performed it on me had already been teaching it for in excess of 10 years. So I would love for you to take, as you're wrapping up thought, talk a little bit about the surgeons that do work at your clinic and why they stand apart from, you know, other places that we could go.
So, I mean, I'm surrounded by amazing physicians, and my purpose is to learn a lot from them and to surround myself from doctors that really want to excel in their field, and so I want to absorb as much as I can from them. And so, yes, we do have a large public system, healthcare system here that allows us to, be in the front line of medicine, if you will. So, I mean, we're literally doing surgeries just one after another in the public system. So when you're ready or you want to take that plunge into the private system, then you're usually very well versed in what you do. You're not just learning when you're cut loose, So I think one of the reasons why physicians are really good at what they do here, and I mean other parts of the world applies as well, is that we have a lot of practice. Okay, so. For example, Dr. Gonzalez, he's our chief bariatric surgeon, and he has done thousands of bariatric surgeries across the board, placation, sleeves, bypasses, lap bands, etc. He was a spokesman for Allergan, which created the lap band, one of the first ones. And so, these companies usually come to Latin America to have doctors start employing the surgeries. And so, for example, right now we do a spine surgery that we're the only ones in the world that do it. So with this spine surgery, it's great because in 15 minutes you're in and out of the OR. There's really not that danger of coming out of the OR paralyzed. And so we see people from all over the world, and their first question is, well, why isn't it offered in Alberta? Why isn't it offered in BC or in Texas or in California? And so the simple response is that, well, these companies are putting they're placing their bets. They're trusting us to develop it and see how good of a response patients have with it. And so that's why, for example, gummy bear implants were used so long ago here, and they're barely 5 years ago they started creating them in Canada and the States. So. The short answer, I think, is practice. I think we do a lot of these surgeries on a daily basis. I think some surgeons do way too many of them on a daily basis, to be honest with you. There is a fine line of being grossly tired and just overworking yourself. and and taking your time and actually being able to do a proper surgery, and not wanting to bite on one you can chew, so to speak. So that's one thing on our practice, that we have a limit as to how many surgeries a day, per surgeon, so that it's as fair to patient number 3 as it was to patient number 1, for example, that we're sharp, we're rested, and that we're in good shape for all the surgeries.
Awesome. I absolutely love it. And I will say, again, I just was so impressed. Now, on a personal note, just because I have a scar question for you, when I do my tummy tuck and my lift, should I expect about the same scarring that I had for my bariatric surgery? Because I can't hardly find those scars.
It should be very similar, okay? And so, like I said a few minutes ago, though, we would still take our precautions. It's always better to practice safe medicine and to be cautious rather than to play reaction medicine.
Yes.
So if we can do that and prepare yourself for the surgery and take our precautions during surgery, the post-op process should be that much easier for you. And now, in regards to the suture line, yes, we do try to minimize it as much as we can, and we will keep it in what's called the belt loop line or the bikini line, so that, if you want to wear a piece of the beach next summer, you can look pretty smart.
Excellent. And I think that was pretty much all the questions that we had for today. Thank you so much for your time. I do know that if you have time later down the road that we can reschedule, that a lot of my people would love to talk about bariatrics with you. I have a lot of people who come to me for that.
Please tell everybody that we will promise to figure out the whole Facebook thing so that they're not left out. Again, I do apologize. I did try. I had our IT guy come in, and so we had everything open here in the computer. I just don't really have it.
That's okay. My people don't expect smooth, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Dr. Serrano. I'm so sad you didn't get to see me back, but your face looks amazing.
I did see you on Facebook Live. You look amazing. So,
oh, thank you.
Because, on a personal note, well, to everyone that's watching, Dory, she had a commitment, and so when you have a patient like that, it's easy. It's a no-brainer. You want to take that patient on. And I knew that she was going to reach her goal. She said, I promise you I'm going to do it. I'm going to send you pictures. This will work. And so her willingness to succeed is what we look for in every patient, because we would get those follow-up emails that about 10 to 50% of patients only do. The other 85%, they don't follow up. And so when I saw her follow up and willingness to succeed in this, I said, she's going to do great. And when I would see those numbers coming down and down and down, I could just see that, she was in this for the long run. So she's a great example for you guys to have as to what it takes to make this work, because our surgery takes about 45 minutes to do, and we'll execute it properly. God willing, I promise. But you can ask her everything you need to do for the post-op process, and she's going to keep you on the right track.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate it. And kisses for the wife and for the little daughter from us, and have an amazing day.
She's not as small anymore. I'll show you. Oh
my goodness. Oh my God. Oh, she's so beautiful. Not like I didn't think she'd be beautiful. Your wife is gorgeous.
She looks like her mom.
Right? No one's going to say you're not handsome, Dr. Serrano. Just putting it out there. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And we will set up another time.
Yes. Thank you so much, doll. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Here, bye now.
Bye. Okay, I didn't know how to shut it off. There we go. Okay. Hi, guys. Yes, give me 1 minute. 1 minute, dude. I'm on live right now. We will talk about your party at the church in a little bit. My brother's home. He's excited. It's Halloween party day. Oh, my God. How awesome was that? I absolutely, I cannot tell you guys how amazing that man is and how wicked my experience was there. But we are going to do a live over the next couple weeks with my girlfriend, where we tell you all the crazy stuff that happened on our trip and how that all panned out. So I'm going to sign out. I'm going to save this and post it on Facebook and pull it over to YouTube. So I hope you guys have an awesome, awesome day. And I hope you loved meeting Dr. Serrano as much as I loved introducing him to you. Have a great day, guys.